different versions. And I think it's as close as any of these movies ever got to being a siege film. But I think it's probably one of my favorite siege films because it's so over the top, violent, and just goofy and aggressive. And that is Death Wish 3,
Oh yeah.
which, so to give you an idea, like the concept of Death Wish 3 is because most of the time it's something, that's happened to his family or something like that, or something that's, and he's at home but he's away when it happens. And this one is something that happens to, like, some like a buddy of his, like, way, far away. And he ends up going over to this apartment complex to investigate the murders. And inside this complex, he kind of figures out that all these people are kind of being held hostage by this gang that is terrorizing everybody and just causing chaos, which is a common theme in these movies. And in this one, so he decides, all right, being Charles Bronson, he's like, fuck it, like, I am just going to take them on. And when he starts to do that, of course, it angers the head gang member, who I cannot remember that guy's name, but he's a ginger. He's awesome in this movie. He looks like Scott Farkus a little bit, like, but he is like the head of the gang, and ends up going to jail because of it. And Bronson is in there at the same time with him, and he swears like a blood oath that he'll kill him and all this stuff. So then he starts to attack like all of these apartments, anybody that helps him or anything like that. So Bronson decides to make all these traps, which is my favorite part of the movie. It's Home Alone way before Home Alone, really. And like one of them is just, he'll put a board of nails down, and like it flies up. If you come in the window, it'll fly up. Or I think it's just a board, and then like it just flies up. And then there's like a thing of nails and stuff where if you try to come in, like you'll step on them. Very, very similar to Home Alone too. And yeah, he just takes on the entire gang, which culminates in like one of the best endings to any of these movies.
Yeah.
Ever.
That shit insane. Yeah, just balls to the wall. Balls out, man.
It's crazy because I think with the end of the second film, they killed off most of his immediate family, so they needed somebody. They're like, well, maybe he has friends, so let's kill his friend.
Yeah, that's true. Like, he didn't have any family left, now that you mention it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole attack on the apartment building is just great. It's just so much chaos and fun stuff going on.
Remember that old couple that invited Bronson in and served him cabbage? Yeah.
3 is crazy. I've said this in the past about Winter. Like, you look at that movie and you look at the first one, it's such a departure, but in the right way, because you could never replicate that 70s vibe of the first movie anyway. That whole gritty
they had
atmosphere.
To go all out with that. That's
exactly
the perfect way to, like you said, to kind of grow from the first and second movie.
Right. And as over the top as it is, like, it just ramps up all the fun of it. Like, it's great. I love 3. I still like 2 a lot more, but 3 is still incredible.
I mean, fun. 3 is almost like, I don't know how to explain it, but like the first 2 are very gritty and like very serious and like
downbeat.
But this one is, to me, like what Rambo 2 is to Rambo. You know what I mean? Like, Death Wish 3 is where it begins to get like really kind of over the top. The gun that he uses in it, and all that, and just the characters and the giggler and all that stuff, and just it's so over the top that it's a lot of fun still, but it's not rooted in reality really at this point. I mean,
you give the lead character a bazooka.
Yeah, like, that's what I was gonna say.
You jump the shark. Like, it's so insane.
It's still my favorite end to any like Death Wish movie by far, by a mile. But yeah, I mean, like you said, like the ending of the fucking movie is somehow or another he gets a bazooka and the guy's holding a gun on him, like dead to rights, but he just is so shocked that he would dare pull a bazooka on him that he freezes. and Bronson just blows the entire side of the building out with him along with it. And it's glorious. It really is.
I think they arrest Bronson at first because they think he's killed his friend, but he really didn't. Like the cops just happened to come in at that moment. But I think they recognize him as being the vigilante.
Well, the cops are in on it in this one. Like the guy is like, you know, I know what you're doing. Just feed me like arrests and things like that. And you can just, I'll just let you continue to do whatever you're doing. So he knows like what's going on in it and stuff. But like, and he wants rid of this gang as well. But something about this one, like something about Death Wish 3 is just so much more violent and crazy than any of the other Death Wishes. I think any of them really. I mean, 4 kind of has the same vibe as 3, but like
kind of, yeah.
I think 3 really captured like something special.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen 3, honestly. I watched last one I've seen most recently was part 2. So I need to check out 3 again. It's been quite a few years, but
Yeah,
I
3
of course it's very memorable though. So it's not like, you know, what happened in that movie? You know,
3 is the
3
is the Evil Dead 2 of like Death Wish movies. It's just
right. Yeah, that's a good
slapstick
way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see what people have to say here though. Yeah. Death Wish should have ended with 3. How do you top that? Vandrop says Death Wish 2 is still his favorite. 4 feels like a direct to video movie. I kind of feel that way, but it's still good. 5 to me really feels like a direct to video movie. It's not as good at all, but I really like Michael Parks in it, so I can't say a lot about it. It's like a live action Contra. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It still does have a grindhouse like exploitation vibe to it. I feel like it's more of an action movie at that point though than it is anything.
I'd say so as well. Winter definitely directed it like an exploitation film.
Yeah.
I remember I think it's the stuntman that worked on it. He said Winter was extremely reckless, and there's a scene where he had to jump over some flames or something and land on some boxes. And Winter turned up the flames even higher so the scene would look that much cooler. And the guy broke his pelvis and his back, and like, but Winter's like, we got the shot. It looked amazing. And the guy's in the hospital like, fuck you. Like, I'm in pain.
Exactly.
Fucked up my career. Like, I might not be able to work. But he's like, we got the shot though.
I think that was the last collaboration that Bronson had with him, wasn't it? Or one of the final ones he had with him. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Jackson Jack. You gotta answer Jackson's question.
No, not this again. You have to have sex with me. I'll patrol Bronson blows you. No, I don't think it's worth that.
No,
I don't think it's worth just dying a horrible death. The end of that. Yeah, that's true. He killed an entire neighborhood in Death Wish 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. What do you guys got?
Go ahead, Mark. You pull one up if you got one.
Well, I was gonna go with the one that kind of started all this, and that's Siege.
All right, I was waiting on it. Yeah.
I was telling him we basically did this. We basically did this show just to talk about this movie. If you haven't seen it,
I'm backwards here.
So I know probably not a lot of people are familiar with this movie, but this is a Severin release. It's just called Siege. If you don't have it, buy it now.
Like, alternate title is Self-Defense, I think.
If you're wondering, is this movie worth it? Yes, it is worth it. 100%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is a paid advertisement. I'll advertise this movie till my dying day. I'll tell you what.
Same here.
Yeah. 1983.
What a year. And also what a film. Like, so you talk about a movie like ahead of its time too. Jesus, man. Like the subject matter that it deals with at the beginning of the movie and like where it goes.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure how to talk about it with in this era.
I mean, I think you just have to talk about it because there's no way around, it's only one kind of part of the movie, which is the beginning, which really gets into that. The rest of the movie has nothing to do with the touchy subject matter, if you want to say. But
Right.
so I guess we should just explain like kind of the plot, right? How this
I think we got
comes to
to,
be.
because
Yeah.
like, I mean,
So
there's
yeah,
no way to do this without just talking about it. So for
yeah.
the
But
easily offended, I apologize.
the lead guy's name in the movie is Goose, right? The guy with the
Goose.
baseball or trucker hat, and he's got the jacket.
Um.
Sort of the one who's like the main shithead of like all five guys.
Oh yeah,
early
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
on.
it
Goose.
is. Yeah,
Yeah. I
Okay.
think it's Goose.
So in the beginning of the extended cut of the film, which is like 10 minutes longer, this whole scene where he's with his wife or his girlfriend, I'm not sure if they specify which, but they live together and he's barricading the outside of his house because there's a strike with the police force and he's sort of trying to protect his property. And he's such a fucking piece of shit. Like we know that in the movie, but in that extended cut, you get a little bit of a deeper look into even more how fucked up this guy is because he doesn't even treat his wife well. Like, he, so she makes like pottery and stuff, and she doesn't want him to go out. And he goes in her office because she's trying to stop him from going out. So he goes in there, he breaks everything. She starts crying and bawling her eyes out.
God.
Even before that, like she makes him lunch or something, and he's just being really mean to her, even about the sandwich, because I guess it like wasn't made correctly. So yeah, it's he's just a fucked up human being in the movie. He reminds me
Yeah.
of the Thomas Millian from Almost Human, that kind of
Yeah,
character.
yeah,
That's exactly what he reminds me of.
a sociopath.
Right,
Basically, yeah,
exactly.
just a
Yeah.
straight, like, yeah,
So
crud kind of sociopath.
and that's the extended cut of the movie has that kind of
That's in the opening, right?
intro. Yeah. So
It's
I
Yeah.
can see why they left it out because I think the movie works really well even without that.
mhm.
But
It gets right into the action, right?
yeah, because this is a really fast-paced movie.
First of all, can we talk about the fact I marked out because I didn't remember this the first time I watched it that the gang is called the New Order. I was like,
Yeah.
the first thing that went through my mind was fucking new order. Like they had their own theme song and like 500 members and Vincent's in it.
But so there's a police strike. It takes place in Canada. It's Nova Scotia, I
Right.
think, right? So there's a police strike. So of course, no police presence on the streets. Everybody's preparing for this. They don't want anybody to go out. And the New Order is a gang of hoodlums, we'll call them. And of course, they're going to go out and do their thing because there's no police presence. So the New Order also happens to be extremely anti-homosexual.
They're very, very
Extremely.
bigoted in almost every way you can imagine. Yeah.
And they don't mince words when it comes to letting you know how they feel about people of that persuasion.
Right.
So one thing that I kind of found strange though, so their mission at the beginning of the movie is they're just going to go to this bar, which is of course it's a gay bar. Why the bar is open during this, I don't know. Why would the bar be open if it's supposed to be this? Everybody's kind of trying to play it safe and all that, but yet there's this bar open. And granted, there's not that many people in the bar, but you're kind of like, wouldn't you just close down for the night? But then we wouldn't have the movie.
Right. That's actually a line that she gives him in the extended cut. She says something like, there are no bars open. And Goose says, I know one bar that's open. We're just going to go have a good time. We're not going to do anything.
Mhm.
So the gang goes down there, and one of the first things you're already going, I know where the vibe that this movie's going to have. They get to the bar, and it's like a kind of a one of those underground type bars where you actually have to walk down like that big flight of steps to get down into the alley or wherever it is. and it's got like the little sign outside. It sets up the thing really well. But they're walking in and they have these weapons. They got like bats and like big pieces of fucking 2x4, and
They're
they're
that
all
kind of
walking down,
gang.
going, they're all going.
They're like the
like with
gang
it in.
like the gang from River City Rampage from Nintendo. Like they just
They're like all
walking around.
beating it in their hand like this, like the
Yeah.
stereotypical, like we're gonna beat your ass. I just found that hilarious. But of course they go into the bar and there's a few patrons in there. I think maybe about 7 or 8 people in
Yeah.
the bar,
Yeah.
and they start, causing trouble. And the patrons and the bartender are like, just get out of here. You're not welcome here. You're not a member. It's a members only place. And one thing leads to another. They claim that they're just there to kind of beat the crap out of them and send a message, as the one guy puts it. And they're kind of beating up a couple people, throwing them on the floor, and accidentally one person dies. I think a bottle breaks and it lands on the floor, and then they throw this guy over a table or something, and he falls onto the broken bottle, and he dies. So now they're like, shit. Like we didn't. I'm not really sure if I believe them when they kind of claimed they weren't going to kill anybody. Like because they went down there with some bad intentions, but now they're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Now we're in trouble because somebody's dead. So they call their leader.
Now,
I don't know what you want to call
correct me
him.
if I'm wrong about this though. But I saw this guy and I was like, is that the fucking guy from Police Academy? That's like
I don't know.
The main
But he
guy,
looks-
it has to be, man.
The guy in the leather jacket.
Yeah,
That's
the guy in
Doug
the leather
Lunnick.
jacket is this. I'm thinking he's the lead heel
He's in
at
Police
the
Academy
end of
3.
Police Academy. Okay, one of those Police Academy movies. Like I was like, I know I've seen this guy somewhere.
Yeah.
And
But
it's
he
like
he looks the part.
He plays a thug,
Yeah.
by the way, in that. That's almost exactly like his character in this, but like much goofier, of course. So when I saw him, I was like, I just burst out laughing. But anyway, in this, he is really like terrifying.
He is.
So,
He's got like the short black hair, the jacket. Like he looks like a fucking hitman, right?
Yeah.
Like
he pulls it off.
They call him in. They're like keeping everybody in the bar, and he just comes in and he's like, well, obviously we can't let anybody leave because now somebody's dead. And so he's like, I'll take care of this. You guys just like go outside, to his like, the gang members. And he just proceeds to line everybody up. It's brutal. This movie is brutal. It's not very.
Make no mistake about it. Like it's very violent.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm giving too much away, but I think this is just the setup. This is just the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
So
first 15 minutes, probably.
Yeah. He ties everybody up that's in the bar, kneels them down. He has a suitcase with a pillow and a gun with a silencer, and he just goes up behind each person and puts the pillow to the back of their head and shoots them through the pillow. Just
execution
one
style.
by one, executes them. One guy had a knife hidden in his sleeve or something, and he's like, tying the rope behind his back, and he's able to cut the rope. He gets out of there, and they start chasing him. The gang members start chasing him, which leads us to where we are for the rest of the movie, which is an apartment complex. And he runs into the apartment, and that's where the real story starts. Really, that's where the film kind of takes its place. And it's like, okay, now we're in this apartment building. These guys, these thugs are after me. These people in the apartment take him in, and those thugs want the guy. They want the guy. They'll do anything, anything to get that guy.
It's kind of crazy because so they've got like the lead heel in it is stationed as like a sniper on the other side on a building. And then they've got like Goose and all those other guys are kind of just there trying to get into the apartment. So now it becomes like, Home Alone adult style, where all the people that are in the apartment realize that like they're trying to get up there. So they start setting up all this shit to try like stop.
I wrote down here are the ingredients, if you will, to what these people have to their disposal in this apartment. Because it's like, so first of all, you got, I don't know how many characters are in there, maybe 5 or 6
5 or
people.
6, yeah.
2 of them are blind. You have 2 blind people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
The other guys are just people that
But the blind dude is really good with artillery. If you remember,
yeah,
like he's fixing the gun and shit. Like
the blind dude can
Yeah.
like mess with things and build things. He just is like a savant, and he has insane hearing abilities as well, which
Yeah.
comes into play later. There's 2 blind guys and then some other people that just live in the apartment or are just there visiting their friends. So the only things that they have to defend themselves from these thugs are a knife, a 303 rifle with 2 bullets, only 2 bullets.
This comes into play, yeah.
Yes, a flamethrower, which is really just an aerosol can that they use, with
Yeah.
flammable. Bow and arrow, of course, they only have 1 arrow. Plastic explosive for model rockets. So those, kits that you used to get, I guess, like, I don't think you can
Yeah.
get them anymore. Maybe if you're like at a space camp or something, they have that type of stuff. And screws and nails, so they can kind of make some explosives, maybe. And then anything else that they can really just kind of jerry rig to keep these people from coming in. And eventually they do get in, but it's just insanity, man. The inventiveness of the movie, I think, is what keeps you interested, and I think the suspense just works super well
I was gonna say,
in
like,
that.
it's
Right.
one of the better movies like this at building suspense, and one of the biggest and best tropes in the movie is the fact that they have like a double mirror
Yes.
in the apartment, and this comes into play like constantly. So it's a mirror that looks like a mirror from one side and then from the other side, but you can open it and go to the other side, like a window almost.
Yeah, it goes into the
So
next apartment.
yeah, so they're like the good guys hold up in there are constantly kind of keep track of like what they're doing on the other side of this wall, and by looking through there and then like kind of like coming back in and then planning on like what they're going to do. And that just makes it like so much better because like they know about this little like trick that the bad guys don't know about. The bad guys are all armed to the teeth like machine guns and shit, like
Mhm.
blasting through the apartments and all this stuff.
I believe they find out about that because there's sort
They
of like
do, yeah.
an attic or escape hatch thing
On the
that's
roof, yeah.
exactly. So they use that. The people that live in the apartments, they go back and forth from one apartment to the other. And then the guy who's stationed across the other building, he's
With a
sniping
sniper.
at them. Right.
And he has like the thermal optic, like the
Yeah,
early
Yeah.
thermal optic.
the
It's like
early version.
It looks like
it
a
like
fucking
barely
radar.
works.
Yeah, like an actual radar antenna on it.
Right.
Um,
And they're just shooting and just they've got like like you said, the machine guns and everything. And man, just like I said, the suspense of like them getting in there and all those little things that I mentioned on that list that they have to use to defend themselves. And you're thinking like, there's no way, because there's certain parts where they kind of blow it with some of that stuff. And you're like, well,
yeah,
that was a waste.
Yeah,
and there's
the
parts
gang
in it.
is so
Oh,
armed. I mean, they got so much artillery and their stuff is silenced. They got scopes and they
yeah,
clearly have the advantage, but somehow they
Mhm.
fuck it up.
and there's parts too where like they've almost got like a perimeter set up, and anybody that goes past like a certain point, they get just absolutely like annihilated. And you find that out at
Mhm.
the very beginning.
Yeah,
When one of
with
the
the
guys
door
goes out
handle.
there, yeah,
Yeah.
and there's so many good scenes though where it's like you expect one thing to happen and something else happens like
Yeah.
throughout the entire movie.
There's even a point where you kind of think it's over, or they think it's over,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not. They're like, okay, I think we're okay right now. And then it's like,
Yep.
no, no, you're not.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
like, I will say that anybody that hasn't seen this, you're totally missing out, because I said this to Uncle Bill earlier. I think this is, and somebody in the comments said it earlier too, that they might even like it better than Assault on Precinct 13. I think there's a strong argument for that.
Yeah, it
And
might be a better film. It
yeah,
really might. Just,
and I
I
think
mean,
at the very least, it's right there next to Assault on Precinct 13 as like the quintessential textbook of what do you do in an exploitation style siege film. Like
Yeah.
there's like really nothing that I would change about this movie. It's you got the suspense, the acting. I was going to say is actually really good. It's not too cheesy. I think everybody did a really good job, especially the woman. I can't remember her character's name. She was really great in this, and her husband or her boyfriend or whatever, they worked really well together. The chemistry between all the people inside,
Mhm.
Yeah, they felt like real neighbors or real
friends.
couple.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, it's very very strong. I mean, they made the most out of what they had on a very small scale budget, but it works all around. I don't know if we should give away the.
No, I don't want to give away the
It's
main
not a
ending.
twist, but the tiny thing at the end is kind of cool, and I
yeah,
totally didn't see that coming.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a twist. I don't. It's not like going to change anything about the movie necessarily. It kind of does, but it's not like a huge oh my god twist. But it's kind of like, oh,
No,
I see what they did there. You know.
yeah,
Um,
So I couldn't
uh,
tell you honestly now that I think about it, like which movie is better, like Siege or Assault on Precinct 13. But I would just put it this way: like the Siege is like the Canadian counterpart to Assault on Precinct 13. So like if you like that movie and you've never seen
mhm.
Siege, then you're almost guaranteed to like this movie. Like it's
yeah.
just it's really well acted. It's got a good score. I don't think it has
Oh
as
yeah.
memorable a score as Assault, but like
No.
it
No.
has a really good score, really good acting, really good like plot, writing, setup, like anything you can think of. Like it's just an incredibly well made film. And when we talk about, because I'm going to be talking about Tenement Game of Survival here in a little bit too, like it's so much more well made than that movie. Like it's so
Oh
much
yeah.
Yeah,
better
I
than
agree
that movie
100%.
in terms of like it's
Everything.
ridiculous, man. They're both low
Yeah.
budget, but like one of them is like the trauma version of one of these movies, and the other is like
Yes.
you know the I don't even know, like the real kind of theatrical version of a siege movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think I could
I don't
recommend it.
know. I don't know if it's on sale. I think somebody might have said it's
Somebody said it
discounted.
was, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it still has like the slip and everything. So keep it away from Rambo because he'll rip it. But you
Yeah.
know, but yeah, anybody who's even questioning, like, it's worth owning 100%. There's no questions asked about that. Like, it is definitely worth owning.
I'd
Yeah,
agree.
so we just talked about this. So Joe, like he owns the Wiley butt pistol, just like the one Bronson uses in the movie.
Oh,
Oh
cool.
wow,
Jesus, that has to be awesome.
wow, that's
Something
cool.
tells me that that pistol does it jam a lot because I would think that it would. That's a 44, right? That's like automatic,
Hmm.
if I'm not mistaken.
Not sure.
Yeah, Roberta Finley, God bless her heart. Let's okay. So let's
Transition
transition.
into
Yeah, let's transition from this, which is by the way, to I
yeah.
don't own a version of. I don't even know if there is a Blu-ray version of Tenement. I'm guessing there
It
is, but I don't
There
own
is
it.
one. Yeah, I
Yeah.
question whether or not I should upgrade. The first time that I saw Tenement was in the Grindhouse triple feature box set. I think it was called Grindhouse Psychos or something like that. It was the
That's what
Media
I was
Blasters.
telling. I was telling Matt that before, and that's where I got it. I've still got that set, and
Me
that's the
too.
only version of it that I've got. Is like the DVD version
Mhm.
of it. But
Yeah.
Tenement 1985's Tenement Game of Survival, directed by Roberta Finley, which it's going to be easy to explain this movie because there's nothing to it, man. Like there's absolutely really no plot.
Not really.
There's no like rationale, and you really don't need it. But it is like, just think if you're thinking like, what's this movie like? Just think about like, what if Trauma made an exploitation style siege film, and that would be what this is. Okay, so there's a gang. They live in the basement of this tenement, and one day the people of the tenement decide that they've had enough of their bullshit, They're led by this guy named Chico, I believe, or Chaco, or
Chaco.
Taco, or something like that. Yeah. And like they decide to get him arrested. So they get him arrested. They go to jail. They get bailed out pretty much immediately. And then they're like, you know what? Fuck all these people that put us in jail. We're going to kill all of them. And that's the plot of the movie. So this is the great part. This is what makes it killer, though. It's almost like a video game because they start on the first floor and it'll say like 8:47 p.m. first floor. And then like, they'll attack like the first floor and then it goes like 10:22 second floor. And then they'll move up. Like, it's like they move up the tenement floor by floor, just like attacking people,
which is a cool concept. It really is.
It is.
Like, especially with the time on the thing, on the screen. Like, it's effective if they just would have done it a lot better, like what they did.
Yeah.
A lot of the issues that I have with it are mostly like the characters don't really stand out all that much, other than they're very one note. It's like
they are.
There's not a lot of individuality other than like the different races. Like that's all that really separates one character from the other.
I think in the 80s, they thought that's all you needed, Mark. Like, you needed a Mexican guy, you need a black guy, you need a white guy.
Honestly, hey, we've come full circle because that's what movies are trying to do now.
That's true, yeah.
Right.
There was a lot of diversity in this movie for the gang, at least, and in the tenement as well. So, but like, you're right though. They don't have an individual kind of personality characteristics. They're just like whatever, And if I'm not mistaken, the one guy, if he's not this guy, he looks just like him, was Cigar Head from The Toxic Avenger. He's got to be the same guy. And this is right around the time that Toxic Avenger was made too. The guy that smokes the cigar and stuff and like attacks him and everything in the first movie.
Right.
I think it's the same dude, but somebody can fact check me on that. Anyway, like, so the occupants of this tenement are basically like, oh shit, like what are we gonna do now? They pretty quickly like find out that they're raping and killing like everybody as they move up this, tenement. So they start to put together like a plan, and the kind of leader is this guy named Washington, who's this black guy who has some sort of like military or some background or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he quickly becomes like the leader, and it just kind of goes from there. I mean, there's scenes of like where like people shoot heroin up. There's scenes where there's grape, there's murder, there's
grape with a foreign object.
Yeah, there's stabbings. There's
I think that's a Cannibal Corpse
shootings.
song.
If it's not,
Great
it should be
foreign object.
Yeah. And the only problem with this movie is it's so low budget that like the paint looks like, or the blood looks like paint. Sorry, and it's just got that cheap look to it, man. Like everything is super cheap. They don't show anything.
Very cheap.
No, like, in the movie, like I'll say, like I've only seen the movie once, and it was some time ago. It's probably been at least a year, and it's not a good movie. That's just my opinion. I know there's a lot of movies that I like that aren't good movies, but I didn't like this movie. I just everything that Siege does right. It's like if you took all that and just said, let's do that all wrong. Let's just make it totally one note. And that's really what it is. But if you're into those really bad, cheap trauma style movies, you may find some redeeming qualities, but I didn't. Did
you all like I did like the Tenement Rap song.
I laughed so much.
It starts the movie off and ends it too. It's great. Oh man.
It's called Tenement Vanderhoff. That's the one we're on now. We're talking about that now.
The subtitle, I think, is Game of Survival.
Yeah. Awesome poster, though. Really
Great
cool poster art. Yeah.
Really
cool art.
Yeah, so Roberta Finley, who did The Oracle, she directed The Oracle, she directed Lurkers, she directed Primeval. So basically all of Vinegar Syndrome's early catalog, she directed. And that's kind of the style of this movie too. It's super cheap and super like just
funny how they don't have that out.
It'll be
Vinegar
out.
Syndrome.
It's coming. Almost guarantee it.
I could see it coming up.
I
I
mean,
think
I
this.
don't love this movie, but I don't hate it either. Like, I think that
Mhm.
it's like you should watch it at least one time. And that's probably all you need to watch it. But
Mm.
especially if you like this type of film, but it's nowhere near as good as like a lot of these. I don't think it's as near as good as any of these movies. The rest of these movies we're going to talk about. So
No, I think it has a good centralized idea. I like the gang, but the characters that they go up against, like I said earlier, it's just they're all one note, and
Mhm.
it's very weak in comparison to something like Siege. It doesn't have any of the good aspects or good qualities that Siege does when it comes to the characters that you want to see win and fight back. Like it just
right.
it doesn't have that. It's missing something,
There's
but
it's
it's
missing. It's you're right. It's missing any kind of characters you give a shit about, one way or the
right.
other on either side.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like all the gang members, you don't know anything about them other than their color, like you said, and everybody in the apartment, you don't get to know anything. Even the main guy watching, you don't give a shit about him, like because he never
Right.
says anything or really like does anything. I think he plays a saxophone or something at one point. He plays something, some musical instrument, and you're just like, that's the most character development you get from anybody in the movie.
Right.
Is just that part of it. So
Yeah, I would say it's definitely worth at least one watch. For me, it was one. It's like I watched it. I was like, I probably never watch it again. But it's so goofy and just it didn't. Nothing about it really stuck with me. I guess is my bottom line with it.
no, it'll be a very forgettable film.
Yeah, a
I just
lot of what's in it you've seen done elsewhere and probably done better elsewhere.
Yeah, and I do think though, like you were saying, like I love the idea of like the way that the way that they do it though, where they're moving up one floor at a time and kind of like
Yeah.
clearing the floor, and then it has like the timestamps for the different. It's like it all takes place in one night too, so that's another
Yeah.
cool thing about it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So what's next? What do you think we should do next?
I guess we should touch on Assault on Precinct 13, at least briefly.
Yeah.
I think you got to, yeah. I mean, it's the kind of like the Citizen Kane of this style of
Yeah.
movie, yeah.
That is
Yeah.
a much better cover than this one. I still have the Steelbook one with the sticker on it. This one,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
I
See, I
like
don't
that cover a lot
I
better.
don't actually own this. The reason being is because I've been hanging on a thread about that 4K that's supposed to be coming out that is done, but apparently there's no release that's like ready to go. They have the transfer done.
That
They've
Scream
shown the
Factory.
um I don't know if it's Scream Factory though. I know they have a transfer that's done that they've shown in theaters, but
Ah,
and it's been like going on for like at least 2 years now. So I don't own it. I've seen it multiple times, but I'm kind of like waiting to get the 4K. I if you look into it, I do believe that the transfer is done, but it's just moving slow as hell as far as getting it out.
like the Beyond.
Yeah.
yeah. The
Yeah.
Beyond, I keep waiting, and every time they always post something about the Beyond in their emails, but it's like where they're showing the theatrical screenings. I'm like, dude,
Yeah. Just
don't
give me
quit
the
sending
damn.
me emails with like the Beyond in the fucking subject header. Just get the
Yeah.
4K out.
Yeah.
Like I
Exactly.
don't need to know it's playing in Louisiana tonight. I'm nowhere near any of these places.
Yeah.
Um, here's my thing about Assault on Precinct 3 that I think really makes it different than all the rest of these movies. Two things. The score,
Bum,
number
bum,
one,
bum.
is just you'll never forget that. It'll always like live in
It'll
your
just
head.
pop into your head randomly.
And then the main character in the film and all the one-liners and shit, he's kind of like a warm-up for Snake Plissken. Like he is the beginning of that idea that I think that Carpenter had. And he plays it to me really, really well in this movie. And that sets this movie apart from like Siege and Tenement and things. You've got like a character that's like really memorable that everybody kind of references when they talk about this movie. That's like his whole thing is like one-liners and just like, you know, that kind of character, that tough guy character that would kind of come out in all of Carpenter's films eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's like Siege, which I think it was important. I'm glad we talked about Siege first because I feel like people need to see both of these movies because they really are like right next to each other in terms of like quality, rewatchability, enjoyability, tension. They're very different movies as far as like the subject matter, kind of because the gang in this one has kind of got that not supernatural vibe, but it's got the cult kind of vibe to it, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. I mean, they don't really say a whole lot, if anything, ever,
Mm-hmm.
which was Carpenter's thing. That's what he wanted them to be, just merciless. And he
It's
had
like
inspiration from Night of the Living Dead with the zombies. They're supposed to be like that in a way, but not supernatural, just a
right.
force to be
It's
reckoned
not
with.
supernatural, but it's like Michael Myers, where it's like, yes, he's a
Right.
person, but there is a supernatural element to like you said, the no talking, the
Mm-hmm.
just pure force and evil and violence, and you take the humanity out of the situation. Um,
Well,
Exactly.
you gotta kind of love that too, to a degree, to where like you don't you need a mystery to some of these movies. You need like some sort of unspoken, which they have like a pact that you see them do in the movie, but they don't talk about it or anything like that. You
you don't
just
know what it is.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, you just know that they're fucking just evil. And there's one scene that cements it in this movie, and it's the scene that everybody always like references and talks about when they talk about this movie. And I'll never get over it. The first time I saw it, like I'm pretty sure me and Wes watched it, and we were both like, "What in the fuck?" Like the first time you see it, you're like, because it comes out of nowhere, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
one of the craziest scenes. I don't think any of these other movies have a scene like this in it.
No, they
Like
don't.
it's so inappropriate that it's great. Um, but to give like a real quick kind of plot for anybody that hasn't seen this movie, I gotta imagine most people on here have. So the cops at the very beginning of the movie basically gun down like a whole 6 or 7 member gang, and it's playing on the news and all this stuff, and the rest of the gang hear about it, and they just kind of take an oath. You see them take like a
A
blood oath
blood
kind of
oath.
thing.
Right. Yeah.
You don't know what exactly. They don't say anything. They don't ever speak in the movie or anything like
Yeah.
that. But like, you just know it's not good. And at the same time, all this is going on, like a bus is being diverted that has all these kind of like prisoners on it to this one precinct station where they're kind of being held over. And one of them is this guy named Napoleon, who's like, it turns out to be the lead of the film, who's the one liner, joke cracking guy, always wanting a cigarette. That's one of his gimmicks. And Austin Stoker being the sheriff and in the film as well, who's over this precinct. And so they're all held up here, and I think in the precinct going out of business or something like that. And this is like the last time it'll be in service.
It's decommissioned.
Yeah. So
Yeah, they're getting ready to move everything from that
Hmm.
precinct or whatever to a different one in a different part of the city or whatever it is.
yeah.
So it's kind of just like, yeah, we're closing up shop here. Everything's pretty much gone, but we still need somebody, a couple people here.
They have like a skeleton crew, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that particular precinct is the precinct that this gang decides it's going to completely like attack and just, decimate to take revenge on what happened to the other gang members. Now, previous to this, one of the people that ends up in the precinct is his father, who his daughter just randomly happens to like go over to this ice cream truck before all this happens. And the ice cream truck is getting shaken down by the gang. The daughter walks up, and I think she asked for a vanilla swirl or something like that. And the dude doesn't even look up and just like shoots her right in the chest. Just like that. She's like maybe 8 or 9, like something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're like, and the way he does
And
it
it
too,
shows it.
it's like a paintball hits her or something. Like just like blood just like shoots
Blood.
up like that. Dude.
Yeah, I mean it's the perfect representation of like the end of innocence. I mean, what could be more innocent than like an 8 or 9 year old girl eating ice cream?
Yeah, it's like, and just what an amazing setup for like that this gang does not give a fuck. Like what, without them having to say anything, the fact that they would do that, you just know like nobody else matters. Like nobody else, they don't care. Nobody stands a chance like against them. Like they have no sympathy like for anyone.
Take no prisoners. Yeah.
And it does like have a really, really cool kind of like vibe to it when they get into the precinct. Everything's really well shot. I'm sure Cundy did the cinematography. I don't know that for a fact, but it just seems like he would have based around that time period. No, he actually didn't. Douglas Knapp did the well, whoever did it, it's amazing. And like on the inside, like they're kind of just all inside there, and then they're just sniping people off through the windows and stuff from the outside in the beginning, and people, just are kind of going down there, and they start to come in, and they're pushing them out. It's like it's like Night of the Living Dead kind of thing. I think that Carpenter was a huge Hawks fan, so it's Rio Bravo and Night of the Living Dead kind of mixed. Great film though.
Yeah, action packed too. I mean, a lot of gunfire, a lot of gunfights. It's just badass all around. That score, like we said already, it'll get stuck. It'll just randomly pop into my head. Boom, 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 boom. It's just too catchy.
Yeah. And I think when we interviewed Carpenter, he said that it was like he just slowed down the Immigrant Song. That's how he came up with the thing. So the Immigrant Song is dun da 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 da. So he just took that and slowed it down really, yeah. And that's where he came up with the theme. So if you listen to it, you're like, holy shit, that's exactly what it is. But it's just so good, man. And that weird stuff that Carpenter was always great at putting these weird kind of like sound effects into the songs as well. So it's got the main theme part, like the bass theme part, and the keyboard part that kind of comes in underneath that. And then it's got that weird drum thing. I cannot figure out what it is either. That kind of sounds like a maracas or something like that are played throughout it too. Like that are kind of like in the background as well. He just layers things like one thing on top of another thing. So like one thing will come in, then another thing will come in, then another thing until it like all builds up.
Yeah, layering of the sound effects.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of memorable pieces of music throughout the movie, but the main theme is the one that's the most memorable for sure. And then you have I love the editing in it because like a lot of the action scenes or shootouts are all punctuated by one cool thing at the end, and like you like the characters, you care about the characters. You mentioned the one-liners from the lead guy, and one of the best ones is where the guy's paying him all these compliments and he's like, well, I'm still an asshole, you can't take everything away from me.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's got some fun dialogue too. I could really appreciate it. I mean, hell, $100,000 budget. They used every penny. It all shows. Yeah. It works well. I love it.
Great cast too. It's got like a lot of people that Carpenter would go on to work with later.
Cyphers was
Nancy Loomis, Cyphers. It's got Lori Zimmer in it too, who he didn't go on to work with, I don't think, but she has an amazing look. I'll say that, like that somehow or another really works in this movie too.
Yeah, such a simple concept that they just took it and ran with it. It's just so effective in almost every way. It's like it's the perfect siege movie. Really,
it is. $100,000 budget too. Yep. That's just crazy to me, man. Like that he made a movie that good on $100,000 budget. It's insane to me.
I know. It's crazy. What do you guys think of the remake? I've only seen it once.
I never saw it.
I saw it. I didn't mind it. It's one of the few remakes where I was like,
Same thing.
"This is okay." Yeah,
It was okay. It was okay as it could have been.
it wasn't really anything like the original. I didn't think. I mean, it had a couple of the concepts of it, but like
No,
not the same style or anything.
no, definitely not the same style. It, I mean, all of Carpenter's film have that kind of permeating atmosphere that like drudges up this sense of dread and hopelessness in a roundabout way. But the remake, it was okay. One of the better ones, like you said. I could watch it again. I probably will go back to it after this. Since we're talking about Siege movies, I'd like to see it again. It's been a long time. I think that one was 2005 or something.
Something like that. It's really early on, like
Mhm.
but it had, I think, what was it? Ethan Hawke was in it.
Ethan Hawke. I think
Lawrence
Lawrence Fishburne.
Fishburne. He was the Napoleon character, wasn't he? Like it
I
wasn't
think
called
so.
Napoleon, I don't think, but he was the same character basically.
Mhm.
But I didn't mind that movie though. I'll just tell you, like it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
I actually just went and grabbed another one because it's something about what you said about what did you think of the remake made me think of another movie that I was like, how the fuck did I not think about this? But we'll talk about it after we're finished with Assault.
I mean, that's really all I had to say about it. Like it's a classic. It's the
Yeah.
most well known probably of any of these films that we're going to talk about tonight. And
Yeah.
it is like the quintessential one of these movies. And if you haven't seen it, well, I don't know why you haven't seen it. You should probably see it immediately. Yeah.
So do you want me to bring this
Yeah,
one
go
up?
ahead.
I don't
Yeah.
know if either of you had this on your, and I don't know why I didn't think about this, but it is a siege style film for sure. And any guesses? It's from the 70s,
Okay.
74. And
Siege style movie from
it is a
74.
siege style movie from 74. And Kino has it out. So I'll just go ahead and show you. This is a fantastic movie and one that definitely everybody should see. I would put this up there with Siege, Assault, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
I've never
I
seen
think
it, so I have no idea.
no, you haven't. Oh
Mm-mm.
my God, man.
I
Okay.
remembered liking it. I didn't even know that they put that out.
Yeah, this is the 4K.
Was that a recent one they put out?
Maybe 2 years ago now at this point.
Shit, I'm gonna have to grab that. I don't know how that one skipped my radar.
Oh man, so I can't believe you need to see this. So this is a siege style film that takes place on a subway train. And they did remake this. I think
They did.
Yeah, they
Tony
did. I
Scott.
remember that.
and who was in the remake? Was it John Travolta? Was he in the
Travolta.
remake? Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this.
No.
So it has been a little while since I've seen this. I actually haven't watched the 4K yet. I had the Blu-ray and I liked it so much that I'm like, I'm gonna sell the Blu-ray and get the 4K because I fucking loved it so much. So this is basically, again, it just takes place on a subway train full of everyday, just normal people, commuters. And what happens is this group of they're kind of professional. I don't know what you'd call them. Professional criminals, basically, and they are gonna take over the subway train. And what their main thing is money. They want money from the city, so they're holding everyone on the train hostage. And their rule is, and they're communicating through the walkie-talkie system or the radio system for the subway station. And they say they're going to shoot and kill one passenger per minute until they get this money that they're asking for. And I don't remember the amount. It's some insane amount of money,
Yeah.
And they're able to stop the train dead in its tracks. They can move it if they want. They actually, what they do is the whole subway train, it has the multiple cars. They separate it, so there's only one train that they're on with all the people on it, and they kind of gather everybody into one train car. I think that's what happens. Very, very kind of violent movie as well. It's that 70s kind of slightly, it's not as exploitation-y as Assault on Precinct 13 or Siege, but it definitely fits in that category. And I love the poster art too. I don't think it's going to show up too well on here, but like you got the, I don't know if it's super easy to see, but you got like the machine gun pointing at all these people that are
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
screaming,
see it
and like
now.
the woman holding her child. Like it's just like it's crazy, man. And it is a really well done you know, kind of edge of your seat movie.
Was
And
it on sale at any point during any of these last sales?
um you know, I'm not sure. It was on sale at one point on one of their sales, but
Okay.
I haven't, like, again, this came out, I don't know if this is 22. So yeah, it's been a couple years since they did, because first they did the Blu-ray and then a while later the 4K came out. But I mean, this is one that I 100% recommend buying uh, when it's on a sale. I don't know if it's been on any of the recent ones. Like I've had it for a while, so I haven't really paid attention. But yeah, the ransom money and the violence and people get killed, obviously. You know, nobody gets
Mhm.
off scot-free in this, but man, I couldn't believe that I kind of forgot about this
Isn't
being in
there
there
a scene in there that I remember where they like don't they do something to the train to like make it go without anybody
without breaks.
driving? Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, they're able to rig it somehow where it's able to move, and I think they take out the brakes at one
Mhm.
point. Like it's been a little while. I wish I could have like rewatched it before
I
this,
didn't even think about that, and like I said, I don't own it, but I would
because they
definitely
are
rewatch it.
trying to. I mean, I don't know. It's not the same as like, you know, being trapped in a place and people are outside trying to get in. I mean, the police and stuff do try to kind of get in, but it's not this a siege style film. It's in the same vein. Whereas, like, you know, Assault on Precinct 13, you got the gangs trying to come in. This is more of like the criminals are
Mhm.
already there and holding people hostage. But I think if you're going by the stuck in one place and trying
Well,
to survive, I guess that could kind of fit.
yeah, I mean, like, there's so many of them,
It's
man.
got yeah,
That like the lines, the boundaries of what would be considered these movies are so thin that like
yeah.
there's so many of them that could be considered that. But I'm gonna have to buy that now because you're an
Oh
asshole
yeah.
and had to fucking bring it up. So
No,
I,
yeah, you'll like it. Like you really will. You'll love it. Um,
that is the best
Walter
part about
Matthau.
doing these shows, though, is finding something new, that you didn't know you haven't seen. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not new per se, but I mean, it's new to me. I haven't seen it, so
yeah,
yeah.
and it's 74, so it's like that. It's got a slight exploitation-y vibe to it, but I feel like a lot of 70s films just you think,
Yeah.
they kind of just all have that
Mhm.
vibe,
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
yeah, a lot of them are really, really kind of gritty just by the way that they were shot. Um, and they all kind of have that takeoff of the French Connection kind of look to them too
yeah,
after a point as well. Um, I was going to bring up one too, and there's a lot of ones like this. So I don't really want to open up this can of worms, but like I always thought, like the one of the films, the newer films, it's like the horror equivalent of a siege movie is You're Next.
yeah,
So
I was thinking about that earlier.
it's that movie is like, so a lot of these are exploitation or action films, but that movie is very much like the horror version
yeah,
of a siege film. So you got a group of people in a house that are like these killers are outside, like, and they're shooting into the house, like different kinds of weapons and things like that, killing anybody that comes out of the house, things like that. Uh, and yeah, but see, the problem with doing that is you could also say that The Strangers is a fucking siege film, and I don't want to get into that. I just do not want to like.
Well, I mean, with siege movies, you'd have to have characters that truly fight back, and they don't really do that in The Strangers. They just kind
yeah.
of get fucking killed, and
They
that's
just
just
kind of
it.
take it.
That's true. In Your Next, at least you have the really one good badass Australian woman character that actually
Yeah.
like creates all the stuff and
She grew
kills
up on
people.
a survivalist
Yeah,
camp
yeah.
or something.
That's how they explained
Yeah.
it really quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah,
movie though, man. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, I remember
Same.
liking Your Next quite a bit. Like it's been a long time since I've seen it. Uh, I know Walmart's had like that. They keep putting out those different covers and shit on the steel books and the Blu-rays, but I have yet to pick it up on any of those new versions.
Yeah, the second sight one is pretty good.
Oh yeah, I forgot they
Yeah,
did
that's
that.
the one I got.
I'm not sure if they still have that version, the limited edition one with all the extra stuff. I don't know if you care about all that stuff, but
Yeah.
transfer wise, it's great as always. That's to be expected with second sight. But it's a very fun movie. Yeah, we were just talking about that on the last stream. Ty West is in there, sort of playing himself, but not really.
Yeah.
He gets killed in it, which is just funny.
Yeah,
It's a
super
lot
violent.
of yes, very very violent.
Who is the fucker in the beginning? That's not Ty West though. Who is the guy? I know him from something else. The one that's with the girl at the very beginning in the cabin that gets killed. He's somebody that's in a lot of these movies too, but I cannot
I'm
think.
trying to think. The couple that's like
Yeah,
in the house
yeah.
with everybody else.
No, the couple that like they get killed like before the main movie really starts. Like they're inside and they're having sex and he's taking a shower and they're blah blah blah. They end up getting killed.
The guy who's like he's like drinking orange juice or some shit. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
Ray
Yeah,
Fessenden. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, I know he's in like a ton of like movies like that
Yeah,
nowadays
he
too.
is.
But anyway.
Yeah, I'll have to check that. I got to do that. We'll check that one out again because it's been so long.
All those
But
guys
I do remember
are
liking it. The masks that they wear, the animal masks, look very menacing. Without they're just animals, but they make it menacing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's somewhat loosely connected to that movie, The Guest, which is also directed by the same guy, because there's a scene in there where they talk about KGB and they mention KGB as well in your next and in The Guest. And then even at the Halloween party in The Guest, the guy in the background is wearing the same mask that one of the lunatics in your next is wearing, if you notice that. But it's just one of those little in things.
CJM says the phone booth is a siege movie.
I thought about that earlier. I swear I did. I wasn't going to bring it up.
The smallest area that you could be trapped in.
So you mentioned this one too, like at the beginning of the show. And
yeah.
everything.
So I guess we can bring that up. I have it here, the second sight standard 4K version. This was the first time. I don't know why it took me so long to watch this. I just watched it today in preparation for this. And definitely qualifies as a siege film. It's an A24 movie. So Rambo Ralph will love it. I know. I actually know he's already done a review on it in the past. I don't think he didn't hate it, but I don't think he liked it that much. But I really kind of connected to this movie, and I was talking to Uncle Bill before we came on, and Mark, you'll probably get what I'm saying about this. So firstly, it's a very music driven film. So not that there's music like the soundtrack or whatever, but it takes place in a concert venue, and it's a sketchy concert venue. It's a concert venue that is run by neo-Nazis.
It's a Nazi metal band.
Yeah. So there's.
I'm sorry. I remember the movie. It's just that premise kills me. Like
So it's that punk aesthetic of like. Now, I was saying it. I related to it because I've been to. Not Nazi. I've not been to a Nazi concert.
Are you sure? Because you seem to be talking about it quite a bit.
I don't know if those exist anymore.
Sure,
maybe they do. But
sure,
if you've been to like punk shows, like true DIY like punk shows where it's not even you could barely call the place a venue. Like I've been to some shows where it's very like punk heavy uh, fans and stuff, where it's like people from the city where you're like, where these people just come out of the woodwork, and you're like, you never see them around in like day to day life, but you go to one of these shows and they're just like all there's like 30 or 40 people like that look like they've come out of like I don't know 1982 or something like that, or the early punk scene type stuff. And so basically, this punk band gets a gig at this venue, and they end up playing their show there. And as they're getting ready to leave, one of the band members forgets their phone in the green room, and they go in there and they see that somebody has been killed in that green room. And it was done by the headliner of the show, which is like a Nazi metal band. And basically they get caught up in it, and the show promoters, the owners there are like, no, 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 like it's fine, nothing, like we're going to take care of this. They basically trick them and hold them there, and they are eventually trapped in the venue alone with the owners and the other band, and some of these just neo Nazis are trying to kill them because they're like, we can't let them leave. So it's very violent. It's got some really nasty gore in it in a couple of scenes. It's not totally a gore fest throughout the whole film, but it does have some good special effects. Um, and I just think like if anybody is like into like that kind of like punk music, or have been to like some DIY like live shows, you're kind of like, I've seen people that look like this. I've seen and so that part of it kind of made me had a strange connection to the movie for me, where I was like, yeah, I've been to like some shows where it's like you see some people around and you're like, I don't know if this is the safest place.
Some GGL and looking people in here that I need to like.
Yeah. So but it's definitely a siege film because they fight back. They're trapped in the green room and in the concert venue as a whole. um you've got attack dogs involved in a couple scenes. um and they really do have to just kind of make use of what they have in there. I think they have a gun, maybe one gun at one point, but just I enjoyed it. I don't. It's not like the greatest siege film I've ever seen, but I would definitely put it up there with the ones that I enjoyed. I don't know if both of you have seen it, right?
Yeah.
You said
Oh, yeah.
earlier. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was, I think, 2015 or 14. This one came out.
Dude, it just because I was looking this movie up because I just wanted to see who the director was. Did you know that the director is also the same guy that directed that Rebel Ridge movie that just
No.
came out on Netflix and was like huge on Netflix?
Yeah, I liked.
No, I haven't seen that.
Rebel Ridge is really good. Let me think. Oh, I don't know if I'd consider that a siege movie or not. Really,
That makes perfect sense though, because those movies are a lot alike. Like
yeah.
the way that they're made and everything.
Oh, did you saw Rebel Ridge?
I saw Rebel Ridge when it came out, like probably the day that it came out, or the day after. Like I love movies like that, like where it's just some guy
That was
that like,
so different, wasn't it?
yeah. I mean, it's like, what would you compare that movie to? If
It's
you had to, like a Walking Tall kind of style movie or something like.
kind of, yeah. I guess you could compare it to that. That's probably the closest thing that I could think to compare it to. But it sits in a sort of a class of its own, where you have a guy who's going up against a corrupt small town police force, basically.
Yeah.
But it's not like every other action film where the hero goes through guns blazing and gets revenge by killing all the cops. It's like, in fact, he does the opposite, where he tries as hard as he can to not kill anybody, all while still taking guys out and sort of rescuing a friend of his and getting revenge, sort of, for his cousin that they've killed. So it's very good movie. Yeah, I'm surprised you've seen it. Was that one recommended to you, or you just stumbled across it?
Just any kind of movie like that on Netflix, I'll watch. Fuck, that's where I watched. What was the other one that was very kind of similar to that? Like Netflix occasionally has movies like that come out that are decent. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, none of them are going to blow your fucking socks off or anything or your skirt
No,
up, but like
no.
they're decent movies sometimes.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, just as a side note to this conversation, you should also see Green Room because it has Imogene Poots in it.
That's right.
Anton Yelkin was in that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Patrick Stewart.
Would that have been one of his last movies since he passed away?
I didn't know he was dead.
I didn't know that either.
Holy shit, is he fucking dead?
Yeah, I mean, he was a really young guy. He was killed by his own car or his truck or something.
Oh, you're not talking about Patrick Stewart, are you?
No.
Okay,
Yeah,
I was like,
I was going to say, yeah, you're talking about the younger
you're talking about
guy in the band. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think it was because I think I read that he passed away like not too long after this came out.
That's fucked up too, by the way. That's still fucked up.
Yeah.
He was 27.
Yeah.
Yeah, very young.
Yeah. So that's
and
a lot of stuff I liked. He's always really good.
I was going to say the acting in this, like everybody does a fantastic job. Like the acting in this is so good. It's like you really get that vibe that it's like these are bad people. Like these are scary bad people. Not the people in the band that is kind of the victims. They're all kind of likable people. They're just kind of in a typical punk band. You know, they don't have any kind of extremist things about them, but they kind of get tied up at this venue that they're just, you know, they're a broke band. They're just looking for a gig. Right. So they're likable, but the people that, you know, the neo-Nazis and stuff, it's just like, they really all pull it off where you're like, man, these people are not people you want to mess with or get hooked up with, because there's some nasty stuff going on in that movie. And the cinematography is also really nice to look at in the movie. It's got like a kind of a real contrast heavy kind of vibe to it. I don't know if you guys remember that aspect.
I do, yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, it's nice to look at. It looks really good on the 4K. But yeah, I definitely recommend Green Room. I as a first time watch, I mean, I would watch it again. It's not kind of one of those ones where I'm like, I don't need to see it again. I think I liked it enough to, you know, I'll definitely give it another watch at some point.
So I'm going to stop it here. We're at 1:30, and I think that we've covered like the main movies that like I really wanted to go over. It, by the way, just as a public service announcement, like these two to me are like the ones that perfectly encapsulate like what that is to be like that kind of movie. If you don't own either of these or both of these, I should say, like go ahead and own these like immediately, if not sooner.
I think Siege is actually, it might still be on Tubi, because I think that's where I first saw it, was Tubi. But I recommend just blind buying it, because
I do too.
You don't need to see it on Tubi. Like,
no, it looks so much better, dude. On Blu-ray, like just go ahead and get it. Yeah,
and Severin put that out, so
yeah, Tenement is on Tubi, so
it is. That's where
you
I
can watch
watched
Tenement on Tubi.
I was in today, and I was like, oh shit, it looks even worse on Tubi than I remember. Like,
Tenement's probably on YouTube also.
It has its own special charm, though, guys. It really does. Like, especially if you like trauma films. But anyway, next Sunday is going to wrap up this particular season. I'm going to start doing these like Cobra Kai, where we do like a brief season, and then you have to wait like a couple months to do another season. So the next and last one that I'm going to do, the theme of the next show is going to be possession movies, not The Exorcist, but that whole slew of fucking possession movies that follow The Exorcist, like Antichrist, Beyond the Door, all that stuff. Like, that's going to be kind of the basis for the next series or the next show that I do. So, yeah, anybody that wants to come prepared with all of your like Exorcist themed rip off possession movies that came out around that time, because
What
that
was Beyond
became
the
like
Door 2? Which one was that? That was the
there was
Beyond the Door. What's that one called?
there's the really shitty one. Wait a minute,
I thought,
look it up.
yeah. Now I'm blanking on it. The one with the little kid
Yeah.
in it.
Shock.
Shock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thinking of that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
God damn, what a bunch of awful movies. I can't wait to talk about them.
Shock isn't terrible. I wouldn't say it's a terrible movie. It's not great, but I own it.
I did mention this in somewhere at the beginning, Mayor, that VFW like was one I wish I would have thought of because I could have gone back and watched it again. But yeah, it's definitely a Siege movie. It fits into that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate Matt, Mark, you guys joining me. Another great addition to this series that's gone on way longer than I ever thought it would. Like, we'll see. Like in terms of when we do the possession.
But we've been talking about doing this episode since like the very first
very
episode.
beginning, yeah. And I swear to God, it was only for the reason to talk about Siege. Like, I didn't have any other reason to do that.
Yeah.
So that should tell you something about that movie.
Yeah. Really good.
But yeah, Mark, you got anything going on? Are you going to be doing anything? Like you're doing 40 different fucking shows with me and Rambo, so
yeah. I'm still going to have that Terrifier video up, but actually one thing I want to ask you, Canucksploitation, have you covered that yet? I mean, Siege is definitely one of them. Do you plan to do just like a show only focused on that?
I plan to do a bunch of, I've got like a list of things on here that I do, but Canucksploitation would definitely be one of them. Yeah. Okay. As would Ozploitation at some point, even though I don't fucking really like those movies, but still a lot of people do. So it's like worth talking about,
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much it though.
What about you though?
Man, I don't have any video. I don't got any videos planned.
I always waiting on you to fucking have some videos, Matt. Like,
watch me one day just drop this like feature length film on my channel or something. But no, I'm like, no videos planned. I did a couple shorts not too long ago. Like I feel like I'm a lot better at doing like those 20-second, show something off real quick. Like I got that Substance prop from the Substance. I did I showed off the new release for Eyes Without a Face, the 4K from Umbrella, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
That was a set that I had to have because I love that movie. I think you guys covered it, didn't you? Didn't you do a you did
a review of it.
Yeah, great movie. But no videos planned at the moment.
Well, you need to get on that because I'm
I know
shit, man. All right, but until I guess the next thing we'll be doing on the show is the interview with David Gregory. I can ask him about this movie and be like, Siege, that'd be killer if I just started out with that.
Yeah, passionate about Siege, eh?
If anybody, speaking of which, if anybody has anything either release wise or just related to everything that they want
stage fright
on that. Okay.
Stage fright.
I was gonna say, just like send me a message, let me know on here. Because like that interview's coming up and there's so many different things that we could talk about. I'm trying to get like a birth of what people want to talk about.
What the hell happened with Four Flies, man?
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. It's going to be almost impossible for us to do this interview without talking about some of the bad shit that they've done. Like, I don't know how he's going to take it, but it's probably going to get brought up. So, we've got one shot at this.
Bring it up as just curious fans, like,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I'm excited for that though. That's going to be. You're gonna have to keep an eye.
It's gonna be something. I don't know what it's gonna be, but it's
people in the comments are gonna be going over the top.
It's gonna go really well,
exactly.
or really horrible. Well, listen, it's not going to be live. There ain't no fucking way I was going to be live.
Oh,
Yeah, it's going to be taped.
Oh,
You think I'm
shit.
crazy, man? People on there be like, fuck you. And they be sending like fucking, stills of me saying that and stuff in the chat. And, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. But anyway, until then, and until like I guess Friday Night Lives on Friday when we do that again, and then the last episode of ExploitNation next Sunday. Yeah,
we got to do hot takes.
Hot takes.
That's got to be. I mean, we did Frozen Terrors, even though that should have been more, I guess, about Frozen Terrors.
I was thinking about that, but I'm like, man, like so many different people have done that type of show. Like
Right.
I do that fucking type of show. But you're right, the hot takes thing. That's right up Rambo's alley too. Like,
get ready. We're gonna offend a lot of people, I'm sure, piss a lot of people off. It's gonna be, I think, the funnest episode. It should be the most interactive one because I want everybody in the chat to chime in with your hot takes. We're going to give ours, of course, but there's no ranking, none of that shit. We're going to give our hot takes, and I want to see what everybody else has. Right.
Y'all know a bunch of mine.
Yeah.
Well, until then, I'm Uncle Bill. And yeah, for Matt and Mark, I appreciate you guys being in here. We will see you soon on the next ExploitNation. See you guys.
See y'all.
I want all these people to click everything they're supposed to click.
You haven't been liking them, you haven't been subscribing to them, you haven't clicked the bell or notification or anything like that.
Folks, why don't you click the like button?
You hate us? Do you not want to see us succeed?
Why don't you click the heart button?
Is this something that you have against our particular show?
Why don't you subscribe?
You should click on one of them buttons right now if you want us to continue to breathe greatness into your life.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others, but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit Radio shirts. You can get Last South on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. Shop.deadpit.com.
Special thanks goes out to our supporters on Patreon. You know what kind of stuff you can get on Patreon, Uncle Bill, starting at only $1 a month?
What's that?
Access to every Dead Pit show since 2005. We got almost 200 fan commentaries that we've done over the decades.
Here's what other fucking Patreons do. They're like, hey, give us money and then we'll let you see a video early that we're going to release like a fucking week from now, and then that's all we're going to give you. Meanwhile, we have a literal jukebox full of songs, thousands of reviews. I don't even know how many shows are up on there now that we've done over the years.
Hundreds of thousands.
You need to figure this out now and subscribe to us on Patreon and YouTube and Instagram and help us to 1 million. The road to 1 million subscribers starts today.
So Dead Pit on Patreon.com. Join today. Tiers start at only $1, but I'd